Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's that time of week again, everybody's favorite segment, the Power Rankings edition. We are now about halfway through the MLB season. The series just came into an end. We just watched the Dodgers walk it off against the Diamondbacks to end the Sunday games, and that's it. We're here at the All-Star break and about halfway through the season, and this is going to be how I lay it out. Bottom row, basically teams that are no chance. Second row, most of these teams no chance. Very, very long shot for some of these teams. Third row, we start looking at teams competing for the wild cards. Second row, division leader competitions, playoff contenders. And of course, the top row, we have teams leading their divisions. Very high chance that we're going to see those teams in the World Series, etc., etc. This is just how I've seen it based on the first half of the season. So hopefully there's not too much controversy, but I know there always is. But hopefully there's no controversy with who number 30 is. 2-1 against Colorado, now 1-2 against the Dodgers. They actually had a winning series in their first 2-game win streak since May, but doesn't matter. They're still last place. We got Arizona Diamondbacks. Number 29, we got these guys still stapled in there too. 1-1 against Toronto this week, and then they got swept by the White Sox. Overall, batting-wise, you got some faith in the Orioles that they're going to start to come around, but without John Means in there, their rotation is pretty rough to watch, and most days their bullpen's going to be blowing games. They're ahead of the Diamondbacks. Should they move up, they potentially could see them moving up in 28th, should they keep it going the way they're going, and this team continues to slide. Number 28, we got Kansas City Royals. We went 1-2 against the Reds this week, and then 0-3 against the Indians over the weekend. They are just continue to slide. And for me, it's their starting pitching has just been atrocious. Most of their ERAs are above 5. And when it comes to their lineup, there's not a whole lot to write home about in their lineup, but they do have 2 all-stars for the most part. We got Whit Merrifield and Salvador Perez, who we'll see in the home run derby tomorrow. So right now, 28th, and honestly, I think the Orioles are competing for that 28th spot. Number 27, we got the Pittsburgh Pirates. They actually had a winning week. 2-1 against the Braves, 2-2 against the Mets, but still it's the Pirates. We can't forget that one play where they had against the Cubs where the rundown from first and home, that was atrocious, and there's still a lot of learning and up and coming for the Pirates, so there's going to be some growing pains, and for now, 27th, very much stapled in there. Number 26, we got Texas Rangers, 1-2 against Detroit, 1-2 against Oakland, another losing week. But we don't see it very often with the Rangers getting completely swept. Every week they seem to be picking up a couple wins, and every morning when I'm doing my review shows, I really say that they put up a fight in most games. So a lot of credit must be given to the Rangers. Could very well see them turn the corner going into the next couple of years, but for this year, I think it's safe to say they're out of the hunt. Number 25, we've got the Detroit Tigers, 2-1 against Texas, and then they got an 0-4 against the Twins over the weekend. Tigers have been on a pretty steady upward climb in our power rankings. I've been giving them a lot of credit here and there, but finally they kind of got some sense knocked into them over the weekend with the Minnesota Twins coming in there and saying, hey, you're not quite the third place team in the Central. We'll just take a step back. Just wait a little bit. But 25, I think it's safe to say they're on the trajectory of going up. They're starting to limit Miz's innings. At least the future for the Detroit Tigers is very bright compared to number 24, Minnesota Twins. Even though they went 4-0 against the Tigers over the weekend, so I did give them a boost above that. They did go 1-2 against the White Sox. So even against a top team, they managed to steal a win. They are starting to come around, but at the end of the day, they've had such a rough start. I don't have a lot of trust in their starting pitching right now, and with the injuries they've suffered in their starting lineup, Buxton, Donaldson, all those guys not really been there on a steady basis. I don't expect them to have a shot at the playoffs. And they might be one of those teams trajectorying down in the long term. So we got Twins at number 24, mainly because of that sweep this weekend, or otherwise they would have been a lot lower. Number 23, we got the Colorado Rockies. They did have a losing series against Arizona 1-2, but then they bounced back over the weekend, beating the Padres 2-1. So As long as the Rockies aren't on the road all the time, I would think that this team has a chance to compete most nights. They've shown a lot of people that they're better than expected this season. I think we owe that to Marquez in the starting pitching. They got Freeland, who's been all right. Overall, their pitching's been a lot better, probably, than expected. Number 23 in that tough division, they're hanging. Probably learning from those teams as well. So I think that's a nice little number for them. Number 22, we got the Miami Marlins. They went 3-1 against the Dodgers early in the week. They showed that their bats, mainly their pitching, can keep them in games, and then some errors, some walk-off situations with the Dodgers, they managed to sneak some out. But their pitching has been elite this season, and it's kept them in a lot of games. And I think in a 3-game series, they can pretty much give every team a run for their money if they're good at the pitching, which they tend to do. And they also have the threat for the long ball with Duvall and Aguilar. It's been a pretty good season. I think the Marlins going to be pretty happy with how things turned out for them. Number 21, we got the Chicago Cubs, 1-3 against Philly, then only 1-1 against the Cardinals. They honestly needed the day off today with their game being postponed. It's been a wildfire in Chicago. It's been up. They've been down here before. And then we saw them go on that huge winning streak, take over the Central and the division lead. I don't know if they have it in them again, but right now that's what they need. They need fire to be lit under them. Maybe this All-Star break will knock some sense into them because they've been free-falling, at least now for the past couple of weeks. Number 20, we've got the Atlanta Braves, 1-2 against the Pirates, and then they did beat the Marlins over the weekend, but I think outside of that win against the Marlins, they lost Acuna over the weekend, which, based on how their season's been going with the injuries with Sorokin and the other starting pitching just not being good, and now their top bat is out of their lineup, it's going to be a long second half for the Braves, I just see. And with a couple teams ahead of them that they're going to have to leapfrog, I see them right now as being the team on the outside looking in that National League East. Number 19, we got the Los Angeles Angels. 2-1 against Boston, but more importantly, they went 1-2 against Seattle, and that's a series they were really looking to win going into the All-Star break. It's against a division rival, against a team in front of them, and they fell a little bit short. However, they had a really rough start of the season. They've been missing Trout for the majority of it. They do have Ohtani, who's leading the league in home runs now with 33. They're right there in the hunt. They're on the outside, but in the second half, anything can happen with Trout coming back. I think they really need to address the starting pitching, but that's going to be pretty much a story that we talk about with every team. We can almost talk about how every team could use a starting pitcher, especially in these two rows here. But number 19, they're slowly creeping up the power rankings. Number 18, got the Philadelphia Phillies. They had a winning week. 3-1 against the Cubs, and then beat Boston 2-1. I know a lot of people have really counted them out ever since the bullpen just started blowing games left and right, but we got to remember this offense does have a lot of firepower in it, and they managed to score runs at large, and they competed with Boston over the weekend. And the Cubs, the bats really came out to play against the Cubs. They do have two starting pitchers that are next level elite possibly, so they're very much in the hunt. Number 18. Number 17, a little bit of a fall for the Washington Nationals. They had a little bit of a rough past 3 series. They did go 2-2 against San Diego, but then they got swept by the Giants over the weekend. I give them an edge over Philly slightly, even though their record's a little bit worse. I just think overall, with Trey Turner, Juan Soto, their bats are a little bit stronger. They need Kyle Schwarber back, and they have Max Scherzer as well. So these two teams are very similar. I give the edge a little bit to the Nationals, but really it's a toss-up. Number 16, we got the St. Louis Cardinals. They had a winning week, 2-1 against San Francisco. That gave them a big boost. 1-1 against the Cubs. Today's game would have been very important to see where they kind of went going into the end of the All-Star, going into the break. But right now they're right smack dab in the middle. Luckily for them, they're in a weaker division where other teams have struggled along the way. Whereas if they were in a stronger division like the West, they'd probably be out of it by now. Number 15, we got Toronto Blue Jays. 1-1 against Baltimore. And then lost the series over the weekend against Tampa Bay, 1-2. Jays, they just can't seem to get that run going. They didn't manage a single sweep against Baltimore over the 4 series they had over the past month. Not a single sweep, whereas everyone else in their division kind of at least got 1 sweep against Baltimore. And then the Rays, who are right ahead of them in second in the division and ahead of them in the wild card race, just seem to have their number. Every team ahead of the Jays in the wild card race has beaten them this season. They just can't get over that hump. Second half, it's a long season. Second half, they're going to get that opportunity. These kids are young, they're hungry. It'll be an important team to watch how they develop over the next half of the season. Number 14, slowly continuing to move up. We got the Seattle Mariners, 1-2 against the Yankees, which was an impressive matchup, to say the least. They gave the Yankees a run for their money, and then they beat the Angels, which, again, another important matchup. So Seattle's pretty hot heading into the All-Star break. Keep your eye out on them. They're quietly going under the radar, maintaining status quo. They're in the same boat as the Jays. Like, they're outside of the wild card right now, but given the right circumstances, they're going to be right there in there till the end. Number 13, Cincinnati Reds, 2-1 against Kansas City, and then a big series win over the weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers to bring them to within 4 games of the Brewers. Who would have thunk it about 10 games ago if that was going to be the case? Not a lot of people had the Reds being the potential number 2, number 1 even, now that they've possibly dethroned Milwaukee. They're one of the teams with a good run differential early in the season, and it completely fell apart. But now we're seeing Castillo start to come along. Some of their other starting pitchers starting to come along. Castellanos is definitely making a name for himself for MVP, so keep an eye on that. I like the Reds and their trajectory, what they're going, so you got to be excited if you're a Reds fan. Number 12, sitting in the same spot as last week, I'm fairly certain. 0-3 against Tampa, but then they come in and then they sweep over the weekend against Kansas City. So they're beating the bad teams in their division, and they're maintaining somewhat of a distance in the wild card, but they're in the wild card hunt. They lost to the Rays, which pretty bad. They had a rough streak, but at the end of the day, when they lost 11 in a row, I believe it was, they're still very much in a wild card race. If you have a chance to lose 11 in a row and still be in the hunt, I think you deserve a top 12 spot at this point. And that brings us to number 11. We got the Oakland A's, who went 1-2 against Houston, and then 2-1 against the Texas Rangers. Just interdivision battles this weekend, and losing it to the Houston Astros really hurts their chances, in my opinion, to have a shot at this division. Right now, they're quite a bit of ways out. They do have a wild card spot locked up, but they've been slowly losing ground in that department as well, so a lot of concern there. Before we go into the top 10, please take the time, go down there, smash that like button, hit that subscription button. If you're new to the channel, we do these videos every week. We do a daily recap video of all the games the night before. We do that live stream every morning. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please go down there, subscribe to the channel, join the community. We'd love to have you be a part of it. So, number 10, probably the highest they've been in quite a while. We got the New York Yankees. 2-1 against the Mariners, who have been climbing on their way up the rankings. 2-1 against the Astros over the weekend, who's a top 3 team, as we know, for the past number of weeks. They got to be happy. They shut out the Astros. Their pitching's been elite. Garrett Cole went 129 pitches over the weekend, showing that he can carry this team. If this team can get a wild card spot, you got to watch out, because they're going to have Garrett Cole as their wild card day starter, which any day Garrett Cole's going to give you a great chance to win. So number 10, I think the Yankees justified it at this point. Number 9, Milwaukee Brewers. A little bit of a slip up after going on a heater. They lost both series this week, 1-2 against the Mets, a team that's ahead of them. And then they lost over the weekend against the Reds, which is a big series loss, which helps close the gap between the two teams. But as of right now, they have a 4-game cushion. I think on paper, their pitching is a little bit better than the Reds. Batting-wise, you could argue the Reds are a lot stronger, but come playoff time, come clutch games, you want the pitching, so I'm giving the edge to the Brewers. Number 8, we got the New York Mets, 2-1 against Milwaukee, 2-2 over the weekend against Pittsburgh. They've just slowly been consistent. The Mets have been very consistent, and with all the struggles they've had with injuries, they've managed to pad quite a big lead in the National League East. Mind you, those injuries could slowly catch up to them, and they're one injury away with like DeGrom or some key number in their bat, and they're just in trouble. So I do have a lot of concern in that aspect, but right now, I gotta give credit where credit is due, and giving New York Mets number 8. Brings us to number 7, the San Diego Padres, 2-2 against Washington, and then losing to Colorado, over the weekend. The Padres are finding themselves slowly slipping away from a chance at the division. I think at the beginning of the season, almost everybody assumed they'd be competing against the Dodgers, but we have surprised San Francisco, and at this rate, it knocks them out of the top 6, being third in your division, being on the road in the wild card game. Not a good look for the Padres, and yeah, they're just not getting the consistency from their pitching, from their batting. It's just not consistent enough to be a top tier team. Top 6. Moving on, number 6, got the Tampa Bay Rays. They had a good week. 3-0 against Cleveland, 2-1 against the Blue Jays. They're a couple games back still of Boston, and I do still worry if they can maintain the pitching that they have. Mind you, it's kind of what their system's built to do, so don't call me stupid, but I keep getting surprised by the Rays every year. Number 6 might be underestimating them at this point, but without Glass now, I do have a little bit of concern that they don't have that ace, and if they don't win the division, they are in a wild card match, and they'll be against Garrett Cole, potentially. So that's the concern you would have if they don't win the division at number 6. Number 5, we got the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had an okay week, and we just watched them walk it off against Arizona. They had a big comeback in that game, 6 runs in the last 2 innings. They almost lost the series to Arizona. You kind of start to wonder if that Trevor Bauer off the field stuff is having any impact on the team, but they seem locked in. They're 2 games back going into the break of the Giants. I think everyone thought they would be leading at this point, but to be 2 games back based on kind of the up and down season they've had, whereas the Giants have had a monster first half, got to be somewhat excited. It's still a top 5 team. No home runs on their team over 20. That's a little bit of a concern for me, but everyone on their team can hit. And they put up a 20 spot over the weekend, so you got to give a lot of credit to that. Number 4, we got the Boston Red Sox. They had a losing week, 1-2 against the Angels, and then 1-2 over the weekend against the Phillies. Both those teams are kind of mediocre, but they're fighting for their edge. Boston might have let their foot off the gas a little bit this week, but maybe also my concerns of their starting pitching also starting to show its true colors. Pivetta had a rough outing. That Rodriguez not doing so well lately, but I'm going to give them the credit right now. Their offense has been elite. They're leading their division, their best record possibly in the American League, at least tied with a couple of the guys. And Boston, this is going to be a true test with what they look like coming out of the All-Star break. Can they hold on to that spot? That's going to be the real question. Going on to number 3, Chicago White Sox, 2-1 against Minnesota, swept Baltimore. They have probably the best stranglehold on a division in the American League, so I give them a lot of credit to be able to hold that position. They're winning baseball. They're going in with injuries they've been dealing with all season. They're going into the break with a not quite stranglehold on that division, so I got a lot of credit there. Brings us to number 2, San Francisco, 1-2 against St. Louis, swept the Nationals. Give them number 2. They could very easily be number 1. I understand they're the best record in MLB right now, but my big concern for them is the fact the wild card game. How the Dodgers are only 2 games back, and I think given what's going on, they're going to have a lot of games against each other left. We very well could see them be dethroned, and to not win your division is going to be a big trouble for whoever is in the wild card of the National League, because both teams in the National League in any other division would probably win that division. So 1-game playoff, anything can go. A little bit of concern there. And now I think this is only the 2nd week in a row, might be the 3rd week in a row. I still got number 1, Houston Astros. They went 2-1 against Oakland, which was huge. Part of that, give themselves a little bit of a lead over them in the division. And then they lost to the Yankees, but the Yankees shut the door on them for 2 games. But it's 2 games. I think Houston bounced back with a nice win today. And going forward, I suspect their run differential and their pitching and their batting they're all around a very strong team. I have them as my number 1 favorite to come out of the American League at this point. And yeah, so I got them number 1. Let me know what you guys think. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Where would you like to see this go? Otherwise, enjoy the next couple of days off with the All-Star break. I'm going to have a recap video tomorrow morning, obviously, about the games today. And we might even do some other fun videos, like breaking down the divisions and what's going on with that and the playoff races over the next couple of day break. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We will see you guys for the next video.